Save your time, save your money. Welcome to Rotten Real Roll. I'm Sinmin. Today, I'd like to recommend a 2016 South Korean drama, Signal. It's worth mentioning that this channel was originally focused on discussing newly released film and TV series. However, given the recent lack of noteworthy new releases, I'll have to start by recommending two outstanding older works. I'd like to emphasize our mission here: avoid those seemingly good but fake masterpieces. Just like the saying, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, then it's a duck. We don't discuss the blatantly bad films that have low ratings in major platforms. Typically, only when a work has received relatively high scores do we consider it worth discussing and evaluating. Of course, if a movie or TV series has been severely underrated, clearly possessing quality but failing to receive the appropriate scores, we might also recommend it. Now, getting back to the point, there are two reasons I want to recommend this South Korean drama from 7 years ago. Firstly, it's going to be taken off Netflix on September 30th. Secondly, without exaggeration, it represents the pinnacle of South Korean dramas. While it has an IMDb score of only 8.5, based on my personal viewing experience, its production quality surpasses many series rated above 9, easily standing shoulder to shoulder with the first 7 seasons of Game of Thrones. If you're a fan of South Korean dramas or crime series and haven't seen this masterpiece yet, I strongly urge you not to miss it. It might just be the best of its kind you've ever seen. If you've rarely watched South Korean dramas before, then you absolutely shouldn't miss it because it could open up a whole new world for you. Signal is a South Korean TV and crime and suspense drama with a touch of the supernatural. The term signal refers to a wireless walkie-talkie. Park Hae-young, played by Lee Ji-hoon, is a profiler in the Unsolved Crimes Unit who comes into possession of an old walkie-talkie that lacks batteries. Unexpectedly, this device starts receiving transmissions from its previous owner, Detective Lee Jae-han, portrayed by Cho Jin-won, who lived in the 1990s. These two individuals, separated by time, connect through the wireless device and collaborate to solve unresolved cases from the past. The walkie-talkie only comes to life every night at 11:23, which, as we later discover, coincides with the time of Detective Lee Jae-han's death. Due to the passage of time, much of the evidence and traces related to long-unsolved cases have disappeared. However, Detective Lee Jae-han, living in the 1990s, can provide fresh leads and clues from that era. In 2015, advancements in DNA testing and forensic technology enable profiler Park Hae-young to provide Detective Lee Jae-han with insights and guidance for solving cases. Thus, they utilize these brief moments to collaborate, exchange clues, and together, they unravel many long-standing unsolved mysteries and cases. Perhaps you might think that this premise sounds quite common. From Frequency to the Butterfly Effect, even the Back to the Future series, and last year's The Adam Project, haven't they all explored this theme? The idea of altering the past in an attempt to change the present, only to discover that merely changing the past doesn't necessarily yield the desired results. In the end, things often go awry, and reality can spiral out of control as a consequence. If it were just that simple, it probably wouldn't earn the title of a masterpiece. Compared to similar works, Signal excels in every aspect, which is what truly sets it apart. Firstly, its storytelling structure is ingeniously crafted. This series features 3 main characters: Detective Lee Jae-han in the 1990s, profiler Park Hae-young in 2015, and Detective Cha Soo-hyun, who previously worked with both and harbored a secret affection for Lee Jae-han. And like other shows in this genre, Signal leverages the presence of Cha Soo-hyun, forming a strong trio that adds complexity and depth to the plot. This triangular dynamic enhances the complexity and possibilities of the narrative, significantly boosting its entertainment value. Secondly, it draws inspiration from real-life cases. While using actual cases is not uncommon in crime dramas, what sets Signal apart is how screenwriter Kim Yoon He weaves these unsolved cases into a cohesive narrative thread. The series employs a rapid pace, featuring 1 case every 2 episodes, and these cases are intricately interconnected, with multiple storylines intertwined. Lines of dialogue, or visuals from one episode can become pivotal to the plot's development later on. Throughout it all, the biggest mystery of the series, the disappearance of Detective Lee Jae-han, remains a constant thread. Compared to the traditional crime procedural format where cases are isolated, this approach offers a faster pace, heightened tension, and a more thrilling cerebral experience for viewers. If you're a fan of mind-bending thrillers with intricate suspense and continuous plot twists, Signal is undoubtedly your cup of tea. Beyond its script, Signal boasts meticulous craftsmanship in its production. From editing techniques to visual storytelling and the hauntingly memorable opening soundtrack, the show's quality rivals that of any other series in its genre. However, it's not just these elements that make Signal exceptional. Its groundbreaking aspect lies in its conceptual depth and emotional resonance. Here, I'd like to pose a question to all of you. If you had the opportunity to alter a certain action in your past, based on your existing memories, knowing that the world would unfold along an unpredictable path afterward, would you do it? Initially, the answer seems obvious. We know who the next victim in a murder case will be and where, so we can rush to protect them. We know someone isn't the perpetrator, so we can guide people in the past. But as the story progresses, the answer becomes less clear because the development of events is unpredictable. More innocents get caught up, including the protagonists themselves. In the story, all three main characters die at least once. To stop one tragedy, they create an even greater one. You might find yourself immersed in a sense of powerlessness, helplessness, and hopelessness, and you begin to question whether changing the past should or shouldn't be done. And this is the question that Signal presents. We know that traditional crime genres generally have two types of endings. The first and most common one is where the good guys win. The culprits face justice, but these happy endings often feel superficial because they essentially become crime-solving fairy tales. We all know that the real world isn't always so idyllic. The second type is where the police's efforts are in vain, the criminals go free. Two famous examples are Anthony Hopkins' The Silence of the Lambs and the Korean masterpiece Memories of Murder starring Song Kang-ho. The former focuses on the charismatic villain Hannibal Lecter, while the latter doesn't even show the criminal, highlighting the sense of powerlessness one faces in the face of destiny. Apart from these good and bad endings, there's a third type where both the criminal and the police meet their demise. This is essentially a variation of the second type. For instance, in Sot Po Lang, a film in the Ip Man series starring Donnie Yen, the final outcome is that the antagonist throws Detective Donnie Yen off a building, seemingly winning. However, as Donnie Yen falls, he accidentally crushes the villain's wife and son who are in the car park below. In this series, Signal ventures into a new type beyond the two mentioned before. I know the reality is ugly and cruel, and I know that the result of my struggle might be losing my own life. But I still choose to do it because of the existence of hope. This is the belief that the male protagonist, Lee Jae-han, consistently holds. This reminds me of the quote often mistakenly attributed to Martin Luther: "If I knew the world would end tomorrow, I would still plant an apple tree today." The question raised by Signal actually carries strong Korean characteristics. It's well known that crime genres are a golden signature of the South Korean film and television industry. Among the hundreds of South Korean movies and series I've watched, there's almost always a theme of collusion between political, financial, and violent organizations. And like many Western movies where problems are often resolved through the legal system, South Korean films often resort to personal revenge and bloodshed, leading to outcomes where everyone is a loser. Perhaps this is a reflection of South Korea's historical wounds. South Korea is a country that has been in a state of transition for 2 or 3 decades. In contrast to China, South Korea has actively pursued democratization and judicial independence. On the other hand, as a latecomer striving for economic catch-up, South Korea, even after achieving substantial democratization, didn't immediately establish a perfect and fair system of checks and balances and oversight. Instead, it partly continued to carry the imprints of traditional Confucian culture and the authoritarian era of Park Chung-hee. In other words, justice isn't always served impartially in South Korea, and situations where power trumps the law still exist. However, the law isn't entirely useless, and individuals still have room for resistance. Lee Jae-han and others lived in such an environment for more than 20 years. This has led South Korean crime films to have a melancholic tone quite distinct from Hollywood. While there are despairing movies like Joker in Hollywood, too, most of the time, Hollywood chooses an optimistic way out, righteous police officers overcoming hardships to defeat corrupt elites. With the power of the people cooperating with this perfect system, subtly maintaining fairness in the world, the dark and lawless Gotham City often represents the creator's resistance and outcry against the world, an existence of magical realism. Today's Americans probably wouldn't equate New York or Chicago with Gotham. But South Korean cinema generally doesn't believe in this kind of optimism. Therefore, in many movie endings, such as The Yellow Sea and The Terror Live, they choose revenge and massacre, going down in flames together, leading to no positive outcome. What makes Signal unique is that it retains a melancholic and distressful atmosphere unique to South Korean cinema, while breaking out of the hopeless deadlock of going down together, emphasizing the pursuit of justice and fairness. This is its most precious quality. As I've always believed, a society that's too mature and civilized doesn't favor artistic creation, because its social functions mostly run smoothly, leaving little room for novelty. On the other hand, a society that's overly closed is a dessert for film creation because it lacks the space for expression. The most suitable soil for film creation is precisely a society in transition, where there's both freedom of expression and ample inspiration, such as South Korea or Taiwan. Well, that's all for today. If you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to like, subscribe, and share our video. And don't forget to ring the bell for updates, so that YouTube's algorithm can better recommend our channel. See ya!